Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Nay and this is Nay's Crafty World. And in today's video I'm setting up my financial journal. I used to include my financial pages in my bullet journal, but this year I wanted to put it into its own journal. Only problem is it's already May and I'm only setting this up now, but that's okay. I've split my year into 4 quarters, starting with January, and that means that we're going into quarter 3 next month. So I'll be setting up the yearly pages in this journal for 2025, just so that I can track the overall progress that I'm making during the year, at least what's left of it. And then I will be focusing on quarterly pages. But firstly, we're gonna start with the first spread. I have a year at a glance page, which is basically a calendar where I'll be writing down any kind of bills or reoccurring annual payments that I have to make. Also, for example, I have to pay rent every 3 months, which can get a little confusing sometimes for some reason. So it's nice to just write in the calendar so that I'm never confused and I always know when rent is due. Same if you have any yearly subscriptions, any annual things that you need to know the date that you're gonna pay it so that you can make sure you have that cash in your account. So after the year at a glance calendar, I also have some financial goals. So I've split my goals into 3 categories. I have my income goals, my savings goals, and my spending goals. So for example, my income, some goals might be my potential yearly teaching income. I might have a YouTube goal that I would like to hit. Then I also have savings. In savings, you can include goals like build a 3-month emergency fund or save $1,000 for a vacation. Spending goals could be something like stick to your grocery budget or make sure to track your daily purchases. Next up is my income tracker. This is a very basic tracker. I'm including the date, the source, the description, and the amount that I make. So if you're like me and you have either a few jobs or some hobbies that pay off as well, you can include that source here. Describe what it is you did. For example, sometimes I'll do extra classes, or private classes, which means that that's an extra job. So I'll write down the source, write the name of the person who I did the extra class with, and then the amount that I made. What's nice about having the date there is that you can make sure that you get paid on time, and if you ever need to go back to check when they paid you specifically, you have that right here. Because this is a yearly page, I am using 2 pages for these spreads. Next up is my savings tracker. It's very similar to the income tracker, also very simple. We start with the month or the week in this case. It depends on how you prefer to save. Do you prefer to save weekly or do you prefer to save monthly? For example, This journal that I'm setting up is actually my husband's. I have a smaller version of this journal, and in my journal it says monthly because that's how I prefer to save, but in this one it says weekly because that's how he prefers to save. So we have week or month, we have the goal, actual, and the total. Then at the end, I decided to include this little holiday savings tracker. Basically, whenever there's a birthday and you would like to save up a little bit of cash to buy someone special a gift, or maybe every year when it comes to November, you realize, oh no, I don't have money for Christmas presents. Here you can make sure that you save a few months before the holidays start. So when the holidays roll around, you have some extra cash lying around. For the next spread, I think in today's day and age, we all need one of these. This is a subscription list. The idea is that whenever you subscribe, whether it's Netflix or a program that you use, or even a game that you subscribe to, you add it to this list, and you also add your cost. Then I have two little squares where I will color in if it is a monthly cost or an annual cost. And then I'll write the date that the payment is supposed to go off. And lastly, I have a little check just to check it off when it does eventually get paid. And that is it for my yearly pages. Next up is my quarterly pages. So as I said, it's a bit late in the year, but we are starting on quarter 3, which will run for 3 months through starting in July through to September. So I'll have basically 3 monthly spreads for the quarter. I'm starting with my July budget. That includes an income list as well as savings. So this can be personal to you. For my husband, he gets paid weekly, but then his second job pays monthly. So he needs space where he can write his weekly income and then space for a monthly income as well. And then finally a total for the end of the month. Same with savings. So he prefers to save weekly. So he has space for 4 weeks. And I left one square open just because some months have 5 weeks and I was a little lazy to go and check which months did. So just a little open space just in case. And finally a total. I'm also including a little tab that I'm cutting out here on the side just to make it a little easier to navigate between the months. On the next page is the fixed expenses. You have a description, a budget, and the actual price. Fixed expenses are things like rent, any subscriptions, monthly subscriptions that the price will stay the same. These are your fixed expenses. Then your variable expenses will include things where the price of it can change. Maybe groceries, water and electricity. In my case, some hobby expenses. Then at the end, we have a total. We have the total income for the month, total expenses and savings, and then what's left over at the end of the month. What are you carrying over to next month? Budget. I included a budget just because we have an estimate. I think it's really good to estimate what you're going to make, what you're going to spend a month, and kind of try and stick to that budget. And I think it's a nice comparison to see the actual amount next to it. And the last spread for the monthly pages is your daily spending. So I've included this because I really want to try to include at the end of the day the money that I used that day, whether it was stopping at a supermarket and picking up milk or ordering a coffee, just to make notes of those purchases. My husband and I have discussed this quite a few times. Sometimes at the end of the month, you kind of look back and you think, where did it go? Where did the money go? And it's the small purchases, the ones that we really don't even take notes of, because what's a cup of coffee here and there? But those things tally up, and at the end of the month, it takes out a big chunk of your cash. And hey, maybe I have a few days that I don't want to spend, and this will help me to make sure that I don't. I could even plan a no spend week using this daily spending list. Next, I won't bore you with setting up the exact same spreads for August and September. Then after the 3 months, before I continue with quarter 4, I have a quarterly review. At the top, I've included the total income for the quarter, total savings, total expenses, and then the total daily spending. I also have a bit of the goals in review. Number 1 is, what did I achieve? What goals did I achieve this month? This goes back to the yearly pages at the beginning, and just a little check-in to see if you are trying to stick to your goals. What missed the mark this month? What did I not achieve, and why? What happened? What is the reason that I didn't have my savings goal, hit my savings goal? Maybe a birthday came up that I forgot about, or a friend invited me out for a trip and that ended up taking a bit more of my savings than previously planned for. And lastly, what can I do to improve next quarter? A little bit of self-reflection, maybe work harder to stick to your budgets. Maybe make note of any holidays coming up so that you're not surprised by something again. So because this journal is for my husband, I am only setting up the first quarter, technically the third quarter, just so that he can get a feel of the spreads, see if these are things that he's actually going to use, see if he might want to change things up a little bit in the fourth quarter. So this is basically a little bit of a trial run for him to see if he likes it and if he uses it. So to show you how I finish off the year in my own finances journal, let me show you my last few pages in my journal. At the end, after the quarterly review, you'll see that I have a year in review. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Please leave me a little dollar emoji in the comments down below. Would you guys enjoy using a financial journal, or do you use a financial journal to help you stay on track? Let me know. And as always, even though this wasn't the craftiest video, I hope that you have a very crafty day. Bye.